Welcome back to Chris Caruso Bass Guitars. This is seriously a strong workbench that doesn't require a lot of specialized tools to build. The materials are one 4x8 foot sheet of 3/4 inch birch plywood and 8-foot 2x4s. I found this video on YouTube and based my build off of this. I did post the link in the description if you'd like to check it out as well. He used metric measurements, which I converted to inches. Let's start with the top. My bench is going to be 24 inches deep so that I can easily reach what I need, but also so I can move it from this office and into my shop in the garage. So it can't be too wide that it won't fit through the door. And it's going to be 60 inches long. This is plenty big enough to work on a 45-inch long 5-string bass guitar. You want to make sure all 4 corners are square because the rest of the build will be based off of the top. If the top is square, so will the rest of the build. I've penciled in where the frame will be on the top, as well as my screw locations. I'm going to come back later with my router and round over the edges on top. The rest of the plywood I'll be using later, some on this build, but also other projects. I've flipped over the top, and I'm going to start the frame. The framing will not come flush with the edges. Instead, I'm going to have about 3/4 of an inch overhang. So I've marked 3/4 inch line all the way around. Now let's cut some 2x4s for the frame. The linked example video shows a millimeter perfect way to do this. Basically, lining up the 2x4 with the end mark and mark it at the other end mark. Then use a speed square and extend it across. You'll do the same for the rest of the sides and cut out an extra one for the middle. Now we need to screw the frame together. Using 3-inch wood screws, I'm also using clamps to hold everything together. I'll put 2 screws in each corner. Now that the frame is all screwed together and keeping the clamps to hold it in place, I'll put in 4 1.5-inch screws, 1 in each corner, to attach the frame to the top. Now we can remove the clamps. And flip the top over to put in more screws to secure the frame to the top. It looks great, and everything else will be built around this. If you get the top right, the rest will follow. Now I've flipped the top back over, and I need to figure out how tall this bench should be. Waist high for me is about 36 inches, but because this has to be mobile, I have to account for my casters, which you'll see later in the video. They are 3.4 inches tall, so I'm going to cut the 2x4s to 33 inches. That extra ½ inch isn't going to hurt anybody, especially being 6 foot tall. But we don't want to use 4 2x4 legs. We want 4x4s. This is where keeping it simple is going to pay off, because we're going to join 2 2x4s together and make 1 4x4 leg. I line them up perfectly even and clamp them in place. Then I mark off my screw locations and will use 3-inch wood screws. You'll notice that I've offset these. This should help keep the legs from twisting, whereas if you put them all down the center, the leg would be able to warp and twist. Now we'll do this 3 more times for the other legs. You'll notice I've positioned the legs so the screws are towards the center or inside of the bench. It just looks neater. We don't want to see them on the finished build. Now we can attach them to the frame. However, if we left them sit like this, especially for heavy work, the weight would be transferred to the top, which we don't want. So I've placed a thin wood shim between the leg and the top. Now I'll go ahead and put a 4 4-inch wood screws through the frame and into the leg, 2 on either side, making sure it's plumb in both directions, and remove the shim. We'll do this for all 4 legs. Now if we flip this over, it would already be a pretty strong bench, but we're not done yet. We want to add a shelf to keep the legs from tilting, and it will also give us some storage space under the bench while working. We also want to add the casters to make this mobile. I put a mark 18 inches from the top of the bench, halfway down, on each leg, and then used a speed square, extended them across. Now we need to take some measurements and cut the 2x4s for the internal frame. As I'm putting this video together, it looks like I didn't get a picture of this next step. But in the example video linked below, it shows an ingenious way of using the clamps to hold the 2x4s in place, especially on the long end, so you can screw this together. I use 6-inch screws through the 4x4 legs and into the 2x4 shelf frame, and then 3-inch screws from 2x4 to 2x4. Now we come to the casters. These are Holkie Leveling Casters with a ratchet handle design. Total capacity, 2,200 pounds. Yes, 1 ton, folks. I'll attach one to each leg with 4 2 1/4 inch screws. Now we're ready to flip this upright. Using some of the leftover plywood, I measured and cut the shelf, again making sure the corners are perfectly square. I'll use some more 1.5-inch wood screws to attach the shelf. And there you have it. I'm going to come back, as I said earlier, and do a 1/4 inch round over with my router on the top edges. I'm also going to varnish it, and I have a black Workbench mat that I'm going to affix to the top as well. I may decide to put some drawers in here as well. It's up to your imagination and your needs. If you like this video, remember to hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next video. In the next video, I'm going to use some of the remaining plywood to make a sign for the shop, so you'll not want to miss it. Once again, thank you for stopping by and watching Chris Caruso Bass Guitars.